Welcome to the Brooklyn Rail's 556th New Social Environment. I'm Eleanor, the Programs Assistant here at the Rail, and I have the pleasure and privilege of being your MC today for a conversation featuring Morgan Bassichis and Ksenia Soboleva. We are thrilled also to have Morgan to close today's program with a reading. Before we get started, we would like to acknowledge that Black Lives Matter and that here in New York, we are on Lenapehoking, the unceded land and waters of the Wappinger, Canarsie, Munsee, and Lenni Lenape people of the Delaware Nation and the Shinnecock Indian Nation. We encourage you to check the chat for a document of resources and actions. And over the past 22 years, the Brooklyn Rail has brought together art, music, dance, film, theater, literature, and thoughtful social and political meditations in our monthly publications and our public events, like here in our daily NSEs. Please check the chat for a link to donate to support our operations and writers and editors here at the Rail. And now to introduce today's guest and host, comedic performer Morgan Bassichis has been called a tall child, or well, a big bird, by The Nation and fiercely hilarious by The New Yorker. Morgan's book of to-do lists, The Odd Years, was published by Wendy Subway in 2020. They were included in the 2019 Whitney Biennial and the Greater New York 2015 at MoMA PS1. Morgan has also released 2 albums, and they live in New York City. Writer, art historian, and curator Ksenia M. Soboleva is based in New York City and specializes in queer art and culture. She has taught at NYU, the Cooper Union, and presented her research at various institutions in the United States and abroad. And she is currently the Andrew W. Mellon Gender and LGBTQ+ History Fellow at the Center for Women's History at the New York Historical Society Museum and Library. Thank you so much to both of you for being here. We're so looking forward to this conversation, and I'm super excited to pass the mic over to you, Ksenia.
Thank you, Eleanor, and thank you to everyone at the Brooklyn Rail for making this possible, and thank you to Morgan for being here. Since this is a queer dialogue, I want to be super communicative and transparent with you and tell you that I only had 4.5 hours of sleep because I met Tori Amos last night. And on the train, and then I took an 8 a.m. train back to New York because I went in Philadelphia, and I was on the train, I was sleepy, listening to Tori and thinking about you. And I was like, I wonder what Morgan's favorite Tori Amos song is. And then I wonder what Tori Amos song I remind you of. See what I did there?
Whoa. Thank you. So I was going to bring this up first too. I was going to be like, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, which is that you met Tori Amos. So I'm really glad that we're starting here. My favorite Tori Amos song is Happy Phantom, without a doubt, from Little Earthquakes. I saw my sister do a dance performance to Happy Phantom when I was in maybe like, when I must have been in middle school or something. And I was like so obsessed with that song, that album. So I have a very clear answer to my favorite song, which is Happy Phantom. What you remind me of, can I answer that at the end of the?
Yes, let's do that. That'll be a good segue into it. So yes, so that happened, and but I'm so excited to be here and to talk to you. And as I was leaving, because I went with my friend Sam Nye, who is the real Tori fan, and she was saying, are you ready? Do you have your questions ready? And I was like, I don't think I need to prepare questions to talk to Morgan. We're just gonna have a flow. And she was like, oh, I see. So Morgan, congratulations on the show. I went to see it twice. And when I heard that you were having the show at Bridget Donahue, I wasn't surprised because that space, it always kind of reminds me of a rehearsal room. I love the space. I go and see almost every show there. So tell me, how did this happen? How did it, when were you approached? When did you decide to turn your performative practice into, physical exhibition? And what was that process like for you?
Yes. Well, really happy to be in conversation with you, Ksenia, and just appreciate your work so much. And so, yeah, really grateful to get to be in any kind of conversation with you. And you know, the story of this exhibition starts really clearly with Erin Leland, who is the director over at Bridget Donahue and who, you know, curated and imagined and organized this whole exhibition and approached me in, I believe, September. Of
2020?
Oh, of 2021.
Oh,
oh my God. Oh no, we make things happen quickly over here. Erin makes things happen quickly over here. So Erin approached me and said, you know, would you be interested in doing an exhibition together? And I, of course, said yes. And I just want to name, you know, what we're looking at here is that throughout this exhibition is like all these works by dear friends. So what we're looking at, these beautiful cushions, these button cushions are designed by Sam Reck, who's an amazing artist, who I encourage you all to check out. And then what we're also looking at is this transcript video of a collaboration between myself and Ethan Philbrick, an amazing cellist, 2 improvisations that we did together. And if you look closely on the speakers are books on loan from the Lesbian History Archives, where we recorded one of the improvisations that's on loop in the gallery. And then above that are some sticks from the Vale of Kashmir, where we also recorded in Parsbeck Park, where we also recorded one of our improvisations. So yeah, so Erin envisioned the exhibition, and we've been in this process together of figuring out what should be in it. And that process has been really beautiful and really a collaboration with so many people, both at Bridget Donahue and also people in my own life. And, you know, just from the really beginning, I just want to say such a deep thank you to Erin Leland, also to Nick Plank, who also works at Bridget Donahue and just was like instrumental throughout the entire process from installation to everything, as well as Kevin Kelly and Jordan Bernier and Sabrina Tamar, and of course, Bridget Donahue. So I just want to say thank you so much to them for really co-making this exhibition. And as we talk, we'll talk about all the other collaborations that are embedded in it.
Amazing, thank you. And my last engagement with your work was when I reviewed your incredible book, The Odd Years, which I have here. And that was a series of to-do lists that you made in 2017 and 2019. And I ended that review by saying, I can't wait to see what they do in 2021. And this is what you did. And of course, you did many other things. But how did you arrive at that questions answers format, which is kind of at the center of the show?
Yeah. So that project started when I participated, that sort of like the idea of that. I always knew I wanted to do a follow-up kind of list project to the to-do list. Like I knew there was more lists, and I thought maybe the form was going to change. And so I was kind of waiting and listening for like what was the next form of lists. And then when I was the amazing artist and dear friend Greg Bordowitz invited me to be a guest in his show that he did.
Yeah, I saw that.
You saw that show at PS1. He did a performance themed around Sukkot, and I was like a guest. And I saw what I brought to that performance was like sort of the anxieties of being a guest. And so I, you know, wrote this series of questions called Questions to Ask Before Going to Someone's House for Dinner, and then just kind of kept making these lists, and they became kind of like the organizing principle of this show. And then eventually this really beautiful collaboration with Don Christian Jones, who designed and illustrated the pamphlets, which you can see on the wall. Yeah, exactly.
I want more, actually.
Yeah, well,
but I felt guilty. I didn't even take one of each because I felt guilty. I was like, oh, I can't be the person taking. I feel that way when I take a free mask somewhere as well. Like at my gym, I take a free mask on my way out, and sometimes I'll take two and I'll feel bad. But maybe I'm gonna go back this week and get more. I wonder what it is also about this idea of, you know, lists being something so queer. And I wonder if it has to do with the fact that it's inherently a poem in a way, and we're so poetic. When did you first start making lists?
Oh my God. I mean, when did I start desperately trying to make people laugh? I mean, you know what I mean? Like the same exact, I mean, I feel like I've just always been making lists for forever. And lists are us, says G.E. Schwartz. I love that. Yeah, use the chat, everybody, because we need all the help, or I need all the help I can get. So when did I start making lists? I mean, also like the relation between like a list and a spell, you know? I don't have anything to follow that up with, but I've always been casting spells, and you know, what's a spell, what's a list, what's a recipe, what's a prayer, what's a poem, what's a song? I don't know, but I'm sure that so many people on this call do.
We have a Salem show coming to the Historical Society, and I was thinking of you.
Oh my God.
We should talk about that. We'll talk about that in the different.
We should talk.
So there are several videos in the exhibition, which is very important because your work, you know, it's alive, and I feel like, you know, if the videos hadn't been there, if it was just ephemera, then it might have felt a little too in stasis. So can we play my favorite one from the videos? Because I'm sure not everybody has gotten a chance to go and see the show, which if you haven't, you absolutely must, and it closes this weekend.
Welcome. First of all, I want to say thank you for coming to this place. I appreciate you because I know we had discussed. I know we had discussed meeting at a local biscuit shop and doing various olive oil. But I appreciate that we didn't meet there. Now you came, you said, where works for you? 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 I appreciated that question, and I answered. I said, my bathroom. I appreciate it if we can meet in the bathroom, because in the bathroom, you can do it all. There's a lot of misinformation out there that says if you want to build a family or get a different kind of degree, you've got to go out into the living room. But that's the kind of ideas we've got to let go of. You can do anything in the bathroom. You can have a small camera crew. You can get a big deal with a big company in the bathroom. You can find some mold. You can find some mold. You can find some mold. You can find some mold and stand face to face, nose to nose, eyes to eyes, and say, I see you, I see you, I see you, I honor you, I'm going to address you. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow maybe, but someday, 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 someday. You can have your whole meals, you know? You can do meals. You can do meals, you can do snacks, you can do naps, you can be sleepy. If you're sleepy in the bathroom, there's nobody who's gonna say, aren't you a little sleepy? Shouldn't you be a little less sleepy? Didn't you just get up? Didn't you just go to sleep? Aren't you just waking up? Why didn't you? You should go on. No, that's how we know we're keeping time. That's how we know we're keeping time. In the bathroom, you can keep time. There are changes in the bathroom. You can surprise yourself. You can surprise yourself and go away. You can surprise yourself and go away and come back as a new person. Who's someone else who says, I love groups, I love events, I love when everybody gets together and they talk about the stuff that's happening in their lives. You can be that person, or you can say, I give up. You can say, I give up, 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 I give up. You can say that. You can empty your pockets, and there's nothing in there because you haven't been anywhere, but you can put stuff in and take it out. Put stuff in and take it out. Put a Band-Aid on. Put a Band-Aid on, use it, and then say, who put this used Band-Aid? Who put this used Band-Aid? Who put this used Band-Aid into my pocket? Is someone playing a practical joke on me? Who's doing the joke on me? You can say, is this bad for my scalp? Is it good for my scalp? Is the reason my scalp is what it is emotional or spiritual? You can ask those kinds of questions. You don't have to be looking on the computer in the very traditional, oh, I need a computer to tell me. You can get into the bathroom and you'll know the answer. You'll know the answer. The closer you get to the mirror, the closer you get to the light, the closer you get to the toilet, the answers come. The answers come. The answers come. The answers come. So I would just really want to say thank you. I just really want to say thank you for meeting me here, meeting me on this side, meeting me. That's our time. So thank you. Thank you.
So you're welcome, everyone, for this gift that we just gave you. So incredible. You are so endearing and deeply, there's something deeply comforting about you, even when someone doesn't know you well. Like I remember when I first met you, I felt this warmth. And, you know, I think every review ever written about your performances mentions, oh, they're so charismatic and they're so, and it's true. So when did you first realize that you were so cute? Was this, and actually, and maybe I want to talk about your background in musical theater and school theater, and that could be a segue into childhood trauma if you want.
Oh, right.
Because for, you know, were you always comfortable on stage? Because I remember for me as a queer kid, the stage was the most terrifying thing ever. I thought that if you would shine enough light on me, I would just queer would just kind of emerge and everybody could see. What was that like for you?
I mean, okay, so you packed in a lot of great questions there. First of all, I just want to say Alexi Wagner, who filmed and captioned that video, and who I've been collaborating with for almost 10 years, who's just an incredible documentarian artist of our movements, and so many of the videos of climate justice marches and Palestine solidarity marches, and so many documentation of movement events and also movement art, and is filmed by Alexi. So I just really want to, I'm so grateful to Alexi for the beautiful video, that bathroom video, and all of Alexi's work. So just to say that, and then your great questions, none of which I have solid, and all of which I wish you could just talk directly to my therapist, actually, who I did mention to you two yesterday. So she's,
maybe I can have her number.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that would be perhaps a little, she would have some decisive feedback. I mean, you know, the performance, trying to make people laugh, queerness, I mean, many a dissertation I'm sure has been written about these things and will be. I think for me, I've always liked to be on stage, you know, like I always like to be trying to make people laugh. I would always come downstairs in like weird outfits and try to like get a reaction. You know what I mean? Like always making up words, and you know what I mean, that's like, in some ways that feels like a very just deeply true part of me, and grew up doing theater, and you know was always in plays, and I feel like that training of being in plays with people and like creating these temporary worlds, I'll never not be grateful for that training, and for like the skills learned in theater and musical theater, and yeah, I'll like never not be grateful for that. And I feel like so much of what I'm pulling from, that's like one of the main kind of like rivers or like, you know, registers that I'm pulling from for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then other than theater, you have a background in political organizing, and you spent 10 years working in San Francisco as an anti-prison organizer and educator. And actually, the first time I met you was at a Black Lives Matter protest. Our friend Lana introduced us. And then I think the first kind of extensive conversation we ran into each other at the East River Park March. So, you know, protesting is a big part of your life. And so I'm wondering if maybe you can say something smart and or funny about, you know, protest as performance and performance as protest.
Oh man, well, yes. I mean, I'm sure you could say something much smarter and funnier than I could. I will say,
I'm not a performance scholar.
Me neither. Well, then we're in the same boat here. I mean, I will say, my answer to your question is like, I have learned so much from organizers and people whose life has been dedicated to building movements, and I have deep respect and admiration for people who do that, and my consciousness and everything about me is like indelibly shaped, you know, by those people in my life, and you know, certainly like popular education and facilitation is like another kind of like register that I'm drawing from in my work, and then, you know, I'm like a really grateful member of Jewish Voice for Peace for the past 8 years, and just really grateful to get to perform for many people who are doing this hard work of organizing and sort of try to offer some kind of nourishment or fortification. And all of us are doing this work in some ways, you know, so like all of us are navigating these conditions. And so I do hope that my work can be some kind of, you know, can be a little piece of nourishment or fortification, like keep going, like a little cup of Gatorade, you know. So I'm not exactly sure the relationship between protest and performance, but it's a juicy one, and maybe somebody in the chat will tell us.
I think there are probably a few dissertations on this also, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. And for people who didn't already know your practice, you received a lot of attention during the pandemic when you started doing your quarantunes, which were, again, so comforting, so beautiful, poetic, funny. And I can't have a talk with an artist go by without asking, how was the pandemic for you? But in a way, and still is, of course. And in a way, the show is also an opportunity to think about how, you know, performance can exist in a space without having it crowded by hundreds of people, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you think your practice has shifted in certain ways? You know, do you think about making videos more when you're first envisioning a performance? Like, does it arrive to you in a video format more like than before? Or?
Right. I mean, I feel like that's what you know, all artists do in some ways. Is like we like shift to meet the constraints that are available, and like make use of what's available and make use of what we have, and what we can do. And I feel like that's I've always believed that about performance. Like, use what's in the room is really important. Like, principle for me, and so I feel like using what's available and using video is and I feel like my work, there's always a little bit of like utilitarianism in it. Like I'm like, I hope this will be helpful, and that can be sometimes a parody of me and sometimes, but it also can be very genuine. And so the Quarantunes were like this very, just like, how do I just offer a tiny little piece of of comfort, and I do think like, like yeah, like words like comfort and joy are not nothing. So I feel grateful when somebody gets that out of it. And has it shifted my practice? I mean, it's made me more grateful to be able to be in the same room together. We did 6 performances over the course of this exhibition, directed by Tina Satter and organized again by Aaron Leland. And it was so special to get to be in the same room together, and not everybody can be in the same room together. And so I'm really present with that. And yeah, so, and we still make it work. And that's very queer too. Like we're always going to make it work no matter what.
Yeah, that is very queer. I have to admit, I'm so sad that I missed the performances. I knew of one, and then I think you got COVID and it was canceled.
I did get COVID-19 again. I did get COVID-19, and then, but we are going to be putting up a video of one of the performances, again, filmed by Alexi Wagner. That's going to probably go up online this week, so people will be able to see it, and hopefully there'll be future opportunities to see the performance as well.
But you're not doing one final one?
We're not doing one final one, and partially because like all of New York City lent us equipment to be able to do that, to be able to do like basically like every business lent us like one plug, you know what I mean? Which is, I mean, basically like so many people from Triple Canopy to the kitchen to the New Museum, like, and so many kind people lent us equipment. And so we had to return the equipment. So no final performances, but hopefully in the future.
Stay tuned for the video. So somehow I thought that these videos were commissioned for the show, I guess because they're all a similar format and time frame. So were you making it for another series, or are these completely separate from each other? They're all
yes,
right?
Exactly. So these videos were commissioned by the Renaissance Society for a 24-hour broadcast that they did in 2020. And my dear love and ex and collaborator, Max Silver, filmed, a brilliant artist and wonderful person, filmed these 4 videos and was the interviewer. There's like a interviewer character sort of where I'm like singing television pitches, because we were in Los Angeles, and what do you do in Los Angeles? You try to get a television show. And so I, was doing that in the bathroom singing. And so they're 4 singing television pitches, and Max is interviewing and has perfect comedic timing. And then those 4 videos are on loop in the gallery.
And then there is the longer, do you call it the symphony with Ethan Philbrick?
Yes.
Why am I thinking about it as a symphony? Is the title a symphony?
It's Marches for Marches. So you're in the domain. Ethan Philbrick, who is a performance scholar, who if we had here would have nuggets of wisdom that would blow our minds. Ethan Philbrick, who's an amazing cellist and musician, performance maker and scholar. We did a project where every month of 2019, we improvised in a different place that matters to us, and particularly kind of a place in our own kind of like queer genealogy. And so we have this series of 12 improvisations. And we did, one outside of St. Mark's Church, and one in the Keith Haring bathroom at the LGBT Center, and one in Douglas Crimp's apartment for him, and then these 2 that are on loop in the gallery, one at the Lesbian History Archives, in which we're pulling books off the shelf and singing from them, which was just the greatest gift. And I just want to say thank you so much to Saskia and everybody at the Lesbian History Archives for allowing us to record there, and then lending us books for the exhibition. And then another improvisation in Vale of Kashmir, the cruising part of Prospect Park.
And is that also where one of the short videos is filmed? Because at some point you're kind of there's like greenery, somebody walks by with a dog.
Yes.
And you live near Prospect Park, right?
I live not too far, and I spent quite a bit of time there. That was in Los Angeles. The other one was in Los Angeles. Yeah, that was on my big West Coast visit. Yeah.
And then you were in Marfa.
I was in Marfa
recently, and one of the lists is questions to ask before visiting Marfa. I want to talk more about these pamphlets. And so does each of them arrive from a personal experience that you had? In anticipation of it?
Yes. And also, there's a question in the chat, are the PDFs of these available? The PDFs aren't available yet, but we're figuring out a way to make them available, make the pamphlets available. So stay tuned for a way that you can have the pamphlet. So we're working on that. Yes, pre-order. Okay, great. The pamphlets, yeah, they were a way to metabolize experience. You know, they're a way to metabolize in the same way that the to-do lists were kind of like, you know, they were kind of culled from daily life. And I didn't anticipate this project. I wasn't planning on making a list for every place I went, or making a list for every kind of experience I went through, but or many experiences, but it just kind of happened that way. So, you know, Steve Martin has that great quote that I really like about comedy, which is like, what's funny is what's happening, and there's always something happening, so there's always something funny. And so like my work is often to stay attuned to what's happening, you know, like right now in the most obvious sense, and then see what can come. So these pamphlets are designed and illustrated by my dear friend, incredible artist, Don Christian Jones, who I've been collaborating with for a number of years, and who is the co-founder of Public Assistance, an incredible mutual aid and arts organization that I encourage you all to look up. Maybe we can put a link to Public Assistance in the chat. And Nick Plank created these beautiful lights surrounding this pamphlet display, and this pamphlet wall is from a medical service, a medical like what's the word, medical object kind of provider. And so the idea was kind of simulating a waiting room, you know, where so many of us have spent so much of our lives. And yeah, and there's a series of 12 of them, and I hope to continue and expand the series and then make it available.
Or turn it into a book even?
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, which of them came first? What was the first list of questions you made?
They're actually in chronological order. From like, the first one was the dinner one.
Okay.
And
so,
you know, I have a joke in the performance where I said, like, I'm not the first person to find dinner to be fraught, you know, obviously like the Last Supper, you know, so like, you know, so starting with dinner, then the second one was about sex, and then it goes on to one about spending time with parents, visiting Marfa, committing to a week away with friends, questions asked before spending time with a niece, before joining an organization, before meeting a group of new people, before saying yes to a gig, before choosing a primary care provider, before attending a Passover Seder, and then before beginning a new friendship. I wrote them in that order, actually.
I had no idea. Mm-hmm. I somehow thought that because you were going to Marfa recently, the Marfa one was the most recent one. but yeah, and this self-help sensibility that you mentioned, that is so, you know, I felt that in the show and with your work in general. And I think one of the many beauties of your practice is that you just have such a brilliant way of you know, infusing real issues and political activism with humor, and just demonstrating that activism and humor aren't mutually exclusive. My favorite one of your lists in the book was what was it? Replace police with chia seeds and turn prisons into tahini dressing. And I'm wondering, when you were, you know, when you were coming of age and starting to perform, who were some of your examples? Who were people that you looked up to, who were doing this, who were, you know, reflecting on the world and on politics and their community through humor?
Well, like so many friends, you know, I feel like first and foremost, always friends, you know, who make it work, you know, like who make, you know, I feel like this is also perhaps something so queer, right? It's like finding the joke in something somewhat unbearable and intolerable, and having the joke make it more bearable. And my mother used to always say, we have to laugh in like the most challenging of moments. So I would say like friends and family first and foremost. And then, you know, like Lily Tomlin was really important to me growing up. And I really had a strong, like I remember her movie with Bette Midler, where she called Big Business, where they play two sets of twins that are kind of switched at birth. And I just remember like something, just always, just women comedians, you know, I mean, just like women comedians always just feeling a deep sense of affinity. And, you know, Jewish women comedians in particular, you know, like just sort of always feeling that affinity. And then certainly when moving to New York, you know, like I've been so blessed to be mentored and learn from Jibs Cameron, Dynasty Handbag, who goes by Dynasty Handbag, an incredible performance artist, and also My Barbarian, Malik Gaines, Alexandro Sagade, and Jade Gordon, incredible collective, who I think both of whom really use humor in such exciting, spacious, capacious ways. So, and then just like so many friends who I constantly am inspired by, and you know, my dear friend River Ramirez, who's an incredible comedian, always kind of like, you know, like they're not separate, like you know, like they're not separate. None of it is separate. The gravity, the levity, the collective, the individual, the micro, the macro, like it's all in, we live in them all together at once. So I really appreciate people who can be with that together on stage.
And did you always have a big queer community, or is it something that you found in New York, San Francisco?
I feel like, well, you know, it's like things are queer before we realize they're queer. Do you know what I mean? Like things are
high school friendships.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
Amos.
No, exactly. It's like, oh, we find what we need, where, you know, we find what we need before we have the names for it, or before it has like the website attached to it. You know what I mean? Like, so I feel like I've my life over and over again has been saved by friends, and I'll never stop saying that until until the end, because it's just true, and it remains to be true over and over again. And so friends, certainly, yeah, so many friends. And then I mean, friendships that are like, that show you a different world is possible, you know, like that show you a different world is like, and that maybe see parts of you that don't get seen elsewhere. Yeah, I've been blessed with finding good people along the way, and have been blessed by, you know, queer community, by trans community, and don't know anything apart from it.
Yeah, yeah, and you've incorporated that in this show in such a beautiful way. What was the most pleasurable thing about doing a gallery show, and what was the most challenging?
Oh, wow. It was really pleasurable to, there's one thing was, it was really pleasurable to like let the work, to feel like the work could work without me in the room.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because so much of like performance is like, you know, I got to be there to make it happen. And so there was something really pleasurable about being like, oh, you can go visit it and I can be home. Like, I don't have to be there. And like, and it can, you can have your own experience, and almost a little bit of spaciousness from the audience experience. Like, oh, you can go have your own experience. And I always love being around different kinds of artists, because often there's a lot more space, you know, whereas in comedy, we're really like tuned into the audience reaction. And I really like art forms where the audience gets a little more space to react in different ways. So, and to have their own process. So I really liked almost the privacy that the audience gets in visiting the gallery. So that was pleasurable. And getting to we found these like bulletin boards where we displayed the to-do lists in these two like sort of giant bulletin board cases that you might find like at a school with like or like a community center with like awards inside of it or something like that. And it was really pleasurable to find those little things that kind of like click things into place. The pamphlet wall, the sort of bulletin board cases, those are really pleasurable to let those details then, which again, Aaron Leland never stopped thinking for making all of it possible. Those are really pleasurable. And then what was challenging, I think what was challenging is that it's my first time. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was my first time, and you know, I've made one group installation with that was at the Brooklyn Museum a number of years ago with John Christian Jones and T.M. Davy and Uno Sato and Michio Sato. We created this, and Annabette Bees. But then otherwise, this has been the first time creating something that stays in space. So, you know, it's certainly like drew on those voices that are like, I don't know what I'm, you know, do I know what I'm doing, and how do I make choices? And, you know, whereas when I'm on stage performing, I have, you know, so much more experience behind me to say, I've tried this and I know where it goes. So I think just the sense of like, yeah, just that sense that was challenging of like, oh God, like where this thing is placed and how that will be read. And, you know, and luckily I had so much help and collaboration support from so many people.
Yeah, well, it looks incredible. It was a real treat to see the lists, you know, the physical lists, because I only know them from the book. Do your parents have a lot of childhood photographs of you that could be exhibited as art?
Yes, I just found a photo of, see if this would be good. Yes. One of the things that I talk about in the performance is that I was like in The Ugly Duckling. Played the Ugly Duckling.
Oh, I wanted to ask you if that was true.
Oh, Ksenia, it's more true than I wish it was. It's very true. And in fact, I did just find a photograph of me, I mean, a few weeks ago, I found a photograph of me playing the Ugly Duckling. And I also joke about this in the show, but there's no costume, just a sign that says Ugly Duckling. And you know, I sort of joke like, it would be great if you could put a costume on, you know what I mean? Like put a gesture towards the idea that I would need some kind of alteration. but there are some photos, and yeah, there's plenty of photos. And if that's what sells, Ksenia, I will put them up.
And you should. I mean, I want to buy that photograph now that I have any money. But was the ugly duckling a positive experience then?
You know,
I mean, that sounds traumatic.
It does sound traumatic. I mean, you know, I didn't really think about it much, frankly, until I didn't think about it really deeply until this show. I mean, I thought about it as a joke, kind of like more superficial joke, but it wasn't until this show that I really revisited the folktale and the fairy tale of the ugly duckling. And there's that great book that I seem to just return to throughout so many shows, Women Who Run with Wolves. You know, one of the fairy tales that she goes deep into is the ugly duckling, as well as
oh, I thought it was me. Yeah.
As well as another folktale that I work with a lot of my work, the Baba Yaga, sort of like, yes. So so it wasn't until this show that I really got to like revisit the ugly duckling and some of the beautiful text in some of the different tellings of it, and that it actually started to feel like it actually started to feel like deeply juicy and generative, and relevant, and like obviously it's such a queer trans narrative, you know, like, oh, and then I'm recognized by these swans, and then these swans like kind of like claim me as their family, whereas before everyone's like, you're ugly and you look weird, and you know, you're not a part of this. And then it's like this identification with this beauty. So if it was traumatic, I don't know, but now I sort of am really grateful for the experience and grateful to have that as a text and a story that I can go back to and reference and work with.
Yeah. And on that note, I would love to know what books you love to read, and I'm just going to ask you a bunch of questions for selfish reasons. I'd love to know what you read, and I'd love to know what TV shows you're watching.
Oh wow, okay, well, this is a great
Succession.
Clearly Succession, right? Because
I couldn't get through. I watched like the first 2 episodes and it was too depressing.
It was too depressing. Okay, fair enough. I'll just keep talking about it for the rest of my life, so you'll get some of it. I just finished Yellow Jackets. And then now this is like, I'm not recommending things, I'm just literally telling you what I watched. Oh, yeah. A new show, Vanessa Bayer's new show. I love that for you. I mean, thank heavens for Vanessa Bayer and Molly Shannon. Okay, so we could talk about television because that's really the only thing I'm truly equipped to talk about. Let's see. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, you go.
I was gonna ask if you had seen the Killing Eve finale.
I haven't watched the Killing Eve finale.
Did you watch the last season?
Okay.
Did you watch any of the new season, Morgan?
I have watched the first 2 episodes of the new season.
Yeah.
And I had a similar experience. I was like, I can't. But
depressing or boring?
I love Killing Eve. Let me. But at some point, no spoilers.
Okay. No.
We don't know. Thank you, Eleanor. No spoilers.
No spoilers. Except that I was deeply disturbed by the phenomenon.
Okay. Well, we don't know why that is. We all find different things disturbing. So okay. So we'll suspend.
No Killing Eve.
No Killing.
You were gonna say what you're reading.
Oh, I read mostly self-help stuff. To be honest with you, I feel like I read mostly self-help books. I read, I'm looking at my room just desperately trying to find a book that I've actually read. I read self-help books. I read, there's a book that a friend got me called The Art of Receiving and Giving, The Wheel of Consent, a beautiful, beautiful book. I've been reading Wayne Kostenbaum's Figure It Out. And then often I go back to a lot of folktales. And I find folktales to be like incredibly useful and helpful, and resonant, and often can sometimes think about my work like a folktale, like it sort of starts out like in this kind of character that's kind of like could be seen as naive and kind of like the fool, who then kind of goes on a kind of journey. So I like Slavic and Eastern European and Jewish folktales often come back to me.
Yeah, which the fool is also such a queer character, like historically, right? And so you sometimes write as well, because you wrote the introduction to Faggots. What is that process like for you? And does every performance piece start with writing?
Totally. Writing and talking, you know, like I feel like talking to myself, I'm always keeping notes. And I was just, you know, right now I'm teaching this class with the Poetry Project. I teach this class like called the Funny Swirl, which is like a play on Funny Girl, about writers who are kind of interested in trying to incorporate humor into their work, and not just writers. And so I've been thinking about this question, like, how does one generate material? But keeping notes and free writing and then talking to myself is like kind of the three things that I do over and over again. And I feel like that my live performance work comes out of that push between talking and writing, and sort of like, and putting those things back and forth, like finding the yolk or whatever in the egg. Yeah, writing is a big part of it, but then has to be spoken to.
And I guess also teaching. Is this your first time teaching, or is teaching something that you do regularly?
I've taught this class, maybe this is my third time teaching it. I taught it once with Poetry Project, and then once with Wendy Subway, and then this is now my second time with Poetry Project. And just want to say so much gratitude to Wendy Subway and Rachel Volinsky and every single person at Wendy Subway for the incredible work that they do, the years of support that they've given me, the incredible book they made, The Odd Years, and all their support with the pamphlets and everything else. So just, and all the other things they publish and organize. And I'm just so grateful to be part of the Wendy Subway community, and also, of course, the Poetry Project community, and all the incredible work that they do all year round. And then the question, what was the question? I just totally forgot. Oh,
I guess it was kind of like, what is teaching?
Oh, what
like,
is teaching?
feel like it, you know?
Yeah, I feel like I get to, I really like to be, often people will like bring me in for like a visiting lecture thing, or yeah, workshop. So I do mostly those kinds of things, but then this class, which I've done a couple more times, has been the first time I've sort of had like a multi-session, you know, like arc. And I'm really enjoying it, and you know, getting to know my own work better through it, and you know, my own practice and process better, and really love working with other artists and with students and all that stuff.
And what are you working on now? What's next for you?
Oh, wow. First of all, can I just say what's been so great? I can't see myself right now, and that's been like such a like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know what I look like to all of you, but this has been such a relief to not be able to see myself. So I'm just like so grateful for the hide self. I didn't even try to hide my self view. But what am I working on? I am really excited because I'm working on the next chapter of this long-term project that I've been working on around sort of honoring and amplifying lineages of Jewish anti-Zionism. And so I've been working on a project with a brilliant musician and teacher named Ira Khonen Temple on imagining what an anti-Zionist bat mitzvah would be. So we did an iteration of this show at Creative Time in their in a beautiful stage that they created in Astor Place, it was called "Don't Rain on My Bat Mitzvah." Again, Barbara Streisand's like, you know, in the work. And now this next version, which is going to be at Abrams Art Center in 2023, if you can imagine that being a year. Yeah, 2023, is going to go deeper and create actually like more songbooks, songs, and texts and resources to sort of like be welcoming people into the lineage of like feminist Jewish anti-Zionists, and really like celebrating the elders and people who've passed that tradition on to me and people who are coming into this work. So yeah, the Bat Mitzvah project, which will result in some kind of album and publication and performance, is what I'm excited to be turning my focus to now.
Do you think that you'll ever make a list of questions to ask before working with someone? I'm so you know, almost envious of your ability to maintain these really close collaborations with people that, I mean, this says more about me, but that I often find it really challenging to work with someone else. You know, it's like you learn so much about a person when you either travel with them or you work with them, right? How do you navigate that?
Imperfectly. I would say I navigate it imperfectly, but I feel like collaboration is such like is a kind of friendship, you know, is a kind of a form of intimacy and friendship, and is challenging and fraught like everything, like all forms of intimacy and connection and relationship. But that there's always something for me to learn in there that has to do with the work we're making. You know, like there's always something in like a kind of a growing edge in the collaboration that actually then deepens the work itself that I couldn't have made on my own. You know, that and that's been true over and over again. Where did that person come from? Okay,
Yes.
And I'm really blessed with just to be surrounded by brilliant people and to be able to make together that
Work with.
Some days.
That is, you know, I have one, just looking at these images again, I have one final question actually, but how far in advance do you decide what you're gonna wear to perform?
Okay, thank you for that question. So sometimes it's like I'm running around day of trying to find something.
Mm-hmm.
So oftentimes that is kind of like my ritual, is like the day before or day of. But this dress from that I wore in Questions to Ask beforehand was gifted to me by my dear friend Daisy Nam, who's amazing curator, and brought me and Dawn to Marfa. And when we were in Marfa, she said, "I have a dress for you." And so that felt really special to get to wear something that she gave to me. And I like so many people in my life being kind of like woven into the show, you know, like the plant is my friend Sumitra Rajmukar's, you know, so like I really like that. So feel free to give me a dress. If anybody wants to give me a dress, feel free. This is my way of saying, give me dresses.
I might give you a dress. I don't wear my dresses. And I don't really, like yesterday, my friend Sam told me to dress up for the Tori Amos concert. And I don't dress up. My idea of dress up is like wearing a onesie or something. So I was just thinking yesterday that I need to get more exciting outfits. Morgan, thank you so much. This was such a pleasure. I think we are ready to open it up to the audience. I'm sure they have many, many questions. Oh no, actually we were gonna end by repeating the question of whether there is a Tori Amos song that I remind you of.
Oh shit, I punted that question to the end because I didn't have an answer, but then I forgot to come back to it.
Okay, we can, you know, we'll give it a let it
marinate.
Because also there's a really good chance that you say a song that I don't actually know, because I'm sort of not a, you know, not a hardcore Tory fan, but I have a lot of people in my life that are hardcore Tory fans.
Yeah. You're an ally. You're an ally to hardcore.
Ally.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much, Morgan and Ksenia. It has been truly an incredibly amazing discussion. I've been so excited to see all of our contributions in the chat as well. So thanks to all the audience members who've been blowing it up. It's been fun. We do have a few questions from the audience. Our first question will be from GE. If you'd like to unmute and ask your question, GE.
Thank you, Eleanor. Thank you, Ksenia. And Morgan, thank you so much. I hope someday to catch a show live. This has been so nourishing on a sunny afternoon. Thank you so much, and you know, strengthening. Can you talk a little bit about how you first discovered that sort of embattled we that you seem to use so effectively through all your songs that cross all the work? Because you're kind of like an everyone, you know.
Wow, I mean that's in 2015 I did a show that was called Me, but also Everyone. And then the joke is, of course, I'm not everyone. You know what I mean? And sort of like the but the kind of like a lot of the humor comes from like kind of thinking you're the center of the world. And then sometimes that humor does open up onto a sense of larger connectedness. So sometimes it's a parody of the we, you know, sometimes it's a parody of like, I do not speak for the we. And then sometimes I'm every woman. Yes, exactly. And then sometimes other things happen, you know, like thinking about that song, you know, that we have always been on fire, you know, there's sort of like, and who's the we, and is the we static and spacious, and who, you know, I have no idea, but it certainly is a recurring word, but it's maybe a trickster word too.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that question, GE. That was awesome. Thank you, Morgan. Our next question is going to be from Ty. Ty, you should be able to unmute and ask your question. You're still muted, Ty.
Sorry, I tend to have co-hosts, but I did not have my special powers today. Thank you both so much. I was having so much fun listening to you talk. And I was thinking a lot about like the things that were queer before we called them queer. And you were saying like you have been reading mostly self-help books. And I was thinking about like also the idea that and I think this happens often with like queerness and feeling like, you know, alone in your body. And you're like, I'm the only one who's ever done it. And then you're like, that's not true. And there's so many books. And I've been reading that Hill Madalino book on being trans and feeling bad, which is like a sad posturing, but it's like really lovely. And it's been making me think about joy. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about like the parts of your childhood or the parts of like growing up and being a person that were queer joy before you called them queer joy. And like, I think that's a big part of how queer people posture themselves in the growing world. So yeah, that's my question.
Thank you so much for that question. And I want to read what you just referenced. And we used to put on these little like circuses in my neighborhood. Like we would like, and I was always the MC. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like witchcraft and performance always, you know, like those are the two play. You know, like you know, Ksenia jokes about or brought in the word Salem, you know, because I grew up in Massachusetts and was like constantly trying to get my parents to take me to Salem and was like totally obsessed with everything having to do with witchcraft and magic. And I took my my first grade birthday was to, we took, like my parents took some friends to see The Witches starring Angelica Houston, which was just like, which then when I returned to later, it's even like, I'm like, it's a moment of like pride of like to have selected that movie. I'm like, that was the right movie and there's just like this scene when like they lock the hotel doors and like remove their shoes and it's just like so amazing. So that was certainly a moment of queer joy, like, and of course like The Witches of Eastwick and The Craft and like Hocus Pocus, like all that stuff, Teen Witch, like all that stuff was like super important to me, and definitely a place for like queer joy before I had those words.
Thank you. Yeah, there's so many, like, I feel like there's so many analogies between like witchiness and transness and the like witch community and like T for T community. And I just, yeah, so thank you so much.
Which is the argument I've been making with the Historical Society. So I'm really excited to have, this show come to the Historical Society and then have programming in conjunction with it, none of which I can talk about yet, but Morgan, I'm hoping that we can talk.
My first play, because I took like a number of years off of performing, and when I was living in San Francisco, I was focused on community organizing. But my first play back, or my first I wrote this play about these like 11-year-old boys who get possessed by the spirits of some of the 11-year-old girl accusers in the witch trials. And so I've like got to like immerse myself in some of those historical documents and transcripts and all that kind of stuff. And even just there's so much there. There's so much there that's juicy and political. And yeah.
Was the play performed?
The play was performed once in San Francisco. And I don't know that it was good, but it definitely exists. I mean, there was the other people in it were amazing. I don't know that I think the play probably needed a lot more work, but it was called The Witch House, because there's a house there called The Witch House. It's like
I would love to read it.
Thank you, Ty. That was an awesome question. Our next question will be from Nick. Nick, take it away.
Thank you so much, Morgan and Ksenia, for this very fun and stimulating conversation. I have two questions. The first, Morgan, I'm curious if experimental theater of the 60s and in New York, people like Judith Malina and the Living Theater, has that been an influence in your work at all? Or if others, not specifically just Judith Malina, but of that sort of 60s experimental era. My second question is, what is the wildest project in the future you would like to undertake?
Oh, wow. I would, to your first question, I would love to learn more about who you're talking about, and maybe you could put that in the chat. I feel like more like feminist solo performance artists is like often more who's like, who I think about, and kind of pull from, and like sort of the lineage of like solo performance. And so that's often what feels inspiring. And then, but I'm excited. And I also like, I love finding out about some of the kind of like queer theater troupes in the 70s, and, the Hot Peaches and Blue Lips, and sort of like this kind of like messy, beautiful collectivities that they created. So I would say that's probably the theater lineage that I think about. And then what's the wildest project? Well, wow. Wow. Wildest project. Well, I mean, Okay, what's wild, Nick? Can you help me out here? What does wild mean?
I think just like your wildest dream in a way, like something that you'd love to do that's maybe further on the horizon, or
Okay, well, wild.
Kind of however you want it to be.
Thank you. I would say, okay, wish list. Wild is I do want to be in. I would love to be cast in something that's not my own. You know what I mean? Like Lily Tomlin had this beautiful thing she used to say of like, there was no roles for me, so I would kind of make it for myself. And so that's really been inspiring to me. And also like I would love to be just experiment with being in other people's stuff. You know, like I joke about wanting to be the MC in Cabaret, and it's not a joke at all. So that's if there's any, give me a dress, put me in Cabaret. Those are my 2 requests, my wish list.
And your dad jokes that you're an actor who hasn't gotten any roles.
Exactly. Cutting joke.
Thank you, Nick. Would love to see that when it happens, Morgan. Keep us posted. Our final question will be from our very own Carolyn. Carolyn, take it away, please.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for this conversation. We've all been laughing more than we might have in any NSE yet. So I'm thinking so much about space. You bring that up so much, making space for the audience. To me, a list also implies space making, like something to be filled in later. Poetry has space, maybe work for a reader, but also definitely like activity. And I'm wondering if you could just talk maybe a little bit more about like space in relation to refusal. Like I know like there's this generosity, the cup of Gatorade, but I think what's so important about your work is how it also just says no to a lot. Like you're creating so much for us, but you're saying no. And I wonder if you could say more about that.
What do you, that's such a great, will you just because I'm at the, like, I need a cup of Gatorade, what do you see as me saying no to? Like, and then I'll rip off that.
I guess I mean like the protests. Some friends went to one of your like walks, and I wasn't there, but they said it was so funny. Like it was a protest and it was raining, and it was sort of almost like it was their cup of Gatorade, but it like the uselessness of it was where it was useful. If that makes, and so I guess if you like, what is it that you find yourself refusing? Maybe that's more specific.
Yeah, I mean, I think I always find myself refusing like a little bit of like a little bit of the what am I saying, like truth, like what's true, like it's sort of like a really easy definition of kind of what's true and what actually happened, you know, like and what's, you know, like transparency and authenticity and confession, you know, sort of like the idea that there's like a true thing that really happened, and then, you know, like and I feel like the joke itself is always like a somewhat distortion of the truth, you know, that it's not, it's, and so I find that to be something I, especially someone who grew up being like so many of us as queer kids like have to kind of narrate our identities in really like flattened true ways, like as a gay young person I was this and now I'm this and now I feel this way and thank you to you for now I feel, you know, like we have to narrate these very kind of like fake narratives from repression to freedom, and I feel like that is so damaging, and obviously like so much of our work is to challenge the idea that we're living in progress, you know, that we're living in you know, that and that there's in fact so many continuities and circularities, whatever. So I think that's maybe one thing I refuse, and I think I play with things that are true and not true, and what else do I refuse?
And gender as a whole, I think that's a central aspect of your work.
Yeah, just say no.
Amazing, thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn, and thank you so much, Morgan. Thank you to Ksenia once again. And we do always have a tradition here at the Rail of ending our events with a performance or poetry reading. And we are extremely lucky to have Morgan back here for our closing reading / performance. Morgan, I'll turn the mic back to you to close us out. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Whenever you're
Eleanor.
ready.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Eleanor, for emceeing and having us, and Ksenia for your really thoughtful, brilliant questions and work. And can't wait to see this upcoming exhibition that you're making and all the things that you're bringing into the world. And just want to say again, a deep thank you to Erin Leland and everyone at Bridget Donahue for their incredible work and support and brilliance. Really grateful. And I thought I could end this keyboard, is really heavy. I thought I could end with a song because that just seems kind of fun. This is a song. This is a song. Can you hear that? This is a song for ex-boyfriends. I know I said, get out of my room. I know I said, don't cut up my food. I know I said, don't talk to me about sex. Gross. I know I said, I can do it on my own. But I like the way you knew I needed a nap before I knew that I needed a nap. I like the way you knew I needed a snack. How'd you know? Before I knew that I needed a snack. Oh, I like the way that you told me to try to pee, even though I didn't have to pee. You said just try. You said just try, little guy. Oh, Maximilian. Oh, Maximilian. Oh, Maximilian. Oh, Maximilian. Oh, Maximilian. Oh, Maximilian. Love you so much. Love you so much. Love you so much. I 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 know you said I have to pick out my own clothes. I know you said I have to put myself to bed. I know you said I have to make some new friends. No. I know you said I have to be a big girl now. But I like the way you knew I needed to leave the event right as we got to the event. I
like the way you knew my feelings were hurt by the wind when the wind was blowing. I like the way that you turned the conversation to me when the conversation wasn't about me for too long. For too long. For too long. Oh, Maximilian. Oh, Maximilian. Oh, Maximilian. Oh, Maximilian. Oh, Maximilian. Love you so much. 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 I love you so much. I love you so much. Love you so much. Thank you, everybody.
That was amazing. Thank you, Morgan. What a fun, gorgeous way to end today. Thank you so much. Just once again, thank you, Morgan. Thank you, Ksenia. Thank you, Aaron and Bridget from Bridget Donahue for making today possible. We, as always, encourage everyone to view our archives of these conversations on our YouTube channel, and we will be uploading today's conversation shortly. And I hope to see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. for our 85th Radical Poetry reading, curated by Hala Liza Ghaffori, featuring some poetry read by Ariana Reynes, Fanny Howe, Kaith Heller, Timothy Liu, and Hala. And just once again, thank you so much for today, Morgan and Ksenia. It was so fun. Everyone should be able to turn on their mics now and say hello and goodbye as we head out. Thanks once again, everyone, for joining today.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Morgan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Morgan.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Ksenia.
Ksenia.
Thank you, Eleanor.
Great
Thank you,
time.
Morgan.
Thank you.
Morgan,
thank you, Ksenia.
Great.
Thank you, Morgan. Thank you,
Thank
Ksenia.
you, Eleanor and Carolyn.
Amazing conversation. Great performance. Yay.
We need a song of the week.
Gracias mille. God, now I need to see the show.
Let's see the show.
Very
Last
badly.
week.
Last
Go see the show, you guys, please.
Get the pamphlets. Get me some.
Yeah.
More.
Pieces, Buddha. Yes, Ksenia, Morgan, you are just terrific. Thank you so much. Salute. Yeah.
Thank
Go see the
you.
show, okay? Go see the show, you guys, please. Much love and courage. Gracias mille.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Stay safe, take care.
Bye.
Bye.